Hi guys, my name's Adam and welcome to my new video. This one is gonna be about iPads. Few years ago, things were really simple. There was just one new flagship iPad every year, and if you wanted to buy a cheaper iPad, you could always get the last year's model. But since then, Apple expanded their iPad lineup with iPad mini, iPad Pro, iPad Air and others. So right now, it may be a little bit difficult to navigate through many models which Apple is selling nowadays. And in this video, I would like to take a look at the iPad lineup and try to explain for which user each and every one of these models is. I'm gonna start from the least expensive ones and work the way up to the flagship models. So enjoy this video, and here we go. 10.2-inch iPad stands at the bottom of Apple's current iPad lineup. It replaced the 9.7-inch model from 2018, and at just $399, it's by far the cheapest iPad you can buy today. It's got a familiar glass and aluminum design, and as it's obvious from the name of it, it features 10.2-inch Retina LCD panel, which is right between the old 9.7-inch and the new 10.5 inches on the iPad Air. It's got the old-school design with bigger bezels around the screen. Also, it's worth mentioning that although this display is Retina, and it is actually pretty nice, it's not laminated. So the LCD panel and the glass are two separate components, and there's a little bit of air gap between them. It's the very same technology that Apple used, for example, in the first generation iPad Air and older models. Most people will not really notice it, but if you plan to upgrade to this model from something like iPad Air 2, then you will probably notice it, as the Air 2 featured a laminated screen. Under the screen you have the home button with Touch ID fingerprint scanner integrated to it. But be aware that this is the older first generation Touch ID, not the newer and faster second gen. The 10.2-inch is powered by an older A10 Fusion chip, which was first introduced with the iPhone 7 and 3GB of RAM. It's not the most modern hardware, but A10 chip was so ahead of its time back in 2016, then it's definitely fast enough to power this basic iPad even today. This iPad also features two speakers, but unfortunately they're only on one side and not on both sides as on the iPad Pros. And there's also 8-megapixel rear camera and 1.2-megapixel front-facing camera. These are really not that great, but for FaceTiming, it's just fine. This iPad also supports the first generation Apple Pencil, and you can also attach a smart keyboard to it. That's it for the hardware specs of this model. But who is this iPad aimed for? Well, for a lot of people actually. Like I said, this iPad is by far the cheapest one in Apple's lineup. But don't be mistaken, this device can do a lot, even at this price point. It's funny, but the basic 10.2-inch iPad can honestly do like almost everything the more expensive iPads can. But obviously, there are some compromises. The screen is not as amazing as on the iPad Pros. The cameras are not that good and don't support the latest AR features. There are also no real stereo speakers, and of course the A10 Fusion chip is not as capable as, for example, the A12X or A12Z in the top-of-the-line iPads. But for most people, this won't really matter, as this iPad can handle the basics just as good as the other ones. You can browse the web, you can do emails, you can watch videos on YouTube or Netflix, you can check news or use social media, you can even use the multitasking features of the iPadOS, so you can have two windows side by side, you can use slide over or picture-in-picture, and heck, you can even attach a keyboard and mouse to it and use it almost like a laptop replacement. It's really amazing to see that even this cheap iPad can do all this stuff, even though there are obvious compromises compared to the higher-end models. So I think this iPad is good for many people. Maybe your parents or grandparents are looking for an easy-to-use computer to get the basics done. Or maybe you want to give your kid his or her very first iPad, but you don't want to spend $1,000 on it. Or maybe you're a student who needs to have a very portable machine to study or to take notes at school, and in this scenario the 10.2-inch model with the Apple Pencil is a perfect choice that won't hurt your wallet. And the A10 Fusion chip, even though it is almost 4 years old, can actually handle most of the apps and even games from the App Store just fine, even here in 2020. So I think Apple really nailed it with this iPad, and if you need simple light device to do all the basics and you are prepared to accept some compromises and you want it to be cheap, then go for this iPad. There's no better deal out there. The Air lineup of Apple products is usually the one that is best for most people. At least with MacBook Air it has been like that for many years now. It's got the perfect balance between price, performance and features. And Apple tries to do the same with the iPads. So the iPad Air stands exactly in the middle of their current lineup, right between the cheapest 10.2-inch model and the high-end iPad Pros. It's got the same design as the 2017 iPad Pro with 10.5-inch screen, and it's really hard to tell these two models apart as they look almost identical to each other. The only real visible difference is the lack of two speakers on the top of the iPad, as the Air features only two speakers on the bottom. Like I said, the Air has 10.5-inch LCD Retina screen, which is laminated compared to the basic 10.2-inch model. But this screen is not the same as on the 2017 Pro, as it does not feature the fantastic ProMotion technology, when your screen has high refresh rate of 120Hz compared to the standard 60Hz like on this Air. If you never had a ProMotion iPad, then this won't really matter to you. But if you once used the screen with high refresh rate, then you will notice that this is definitely not as smooth when you're, for example, scrolling. The iPad Air is powered by an A12 CPU and 3GB of RAM, which is the same hardware as, for example, the iPhone XR has. This CPU is really powerful and it can take everything you throw at it, but don't mistake this CPU and the A12X or A12Z, as those are even more powerful, especially in the graphics. But the Air with the A12 is definitely no slouch either. And it also supports the first generation Apple Pencil and Smart Keyboard, so you can make it more like a laptop replacement. And who is this iPad Air aimed for? Well, it's the same as the MacBook Air. It's really for almost everyone. At $499 it's the perfect balance between the cheapest model with more compromises and the best of the best iPad Pros. Compared to the Pro iPads, it doesn't feature the bezel-less screen with the Face ID sensor. It doesn't have USB-C, it's got only two speakers instead of four, and the A12Z CPU is more powerful, even though the A12 is a beast of its own and you won't have any problems running all the latest apps and games on this iPad Air. But when you compare it to the $170 cheaper 10.2-inch iPad, the Air has better and bigger screen, much more powerful CPU, faster and more reliable second-generation Touch ID, and better set of cameras. So I think Air is the best iPad for almost everyone. It's got the power for even the most intensive games. The screen is really nice, and you can hook it up to the keyboard and use it with the Apple Pencil. But there's a catch. For around the same amount of money as this iPad Air is sold for, you can get, for example, a refurbished 10.5-inch 2017 iPad Pro, which has the high refresh rate ProMotion screen, better speakers and more graphics power. But if you want a new powerful full-size iPad and the Pro models are just too expensive for your taste, then go for the Air, you won't regret it. The iPad mini is a weird category. The very popular iPad mini 4 was released in 2015, and for a while it seemed like Apple would not continue selling the mini, and then all of a sudden in March 2019 they refreshed iPad mini with this 5th generation model alongside a new iPad Air. The design of this iPad mini is the same as every other mini in the past. It's really weird that Apple didn't change design of this device a bit in the past 8 years, and they just kept upgrading the internals. The iPad mini 5 is basically the new iPad Air in a smaller body. It features a 7.9 Retina LCD panel with home button under the screen and second generation Touch ID fingerprint scanner. Almost every other specification is the same as on the iPad Air. It is powered by A12 Bionic CPU and 3GB of RAM. It's got the same speakers, same set of cameras, and also it supports the Apple Pencil. But unlike the 10.2-inch iPad and iPad Air, the Mini does not support the Smart Keyboard, which is understandable due to its small size. But you can get keyboards from third-party manufacturers, but be aware that the typing experience on such small keyboards won't be much pleasant experience. And who is this iPad mini designed for? Well, unlike the bigger iPads, this one is definitely not meant as a computer replacement due to its size and lack of official keyboard support. But I think it has a lot of potential customers. It's for those people who just want small yet very powerful tablet to browse the web or watch videos at home on a couch. Or it's a great tablet for kids because it's small but very powerful to run even the most intensive games. And thanks to the Apple Pencil support, it can be a great notepad because it's very portable. It can honestly fit to almost every woman's purse. So you can take it around with you and just quickly get it out to take notes and stuff. Some people say that they don't need iPad mini because they have max-size iPhone, but in my opinion it is still a huge difference between 6.5 inches on the XS Max or 11 Pro Max and 7.9 inches on the iPad mini. And the iPhone obviously doesn't support the Apple Pencil, so it's not as good as the iPad in taking notes. And last but not least, the mini is almost 3 times cheaper than the 11 Pro Max, for example, and it's really important for a lot of people. So I think the mini is for those of you who just need a good, powerful tablet, not a computer replacement, and the size does matter to you. Hopefully Apple will soon bring bezel-less screen to the mini and make it a great 9-inch tablet in the body of the current mini. That would be really amazing. And now we get to the top of the line of Apple's tablet lineup, and that's obviously the iPad Pro. Apple recently refreshed the Pro with the new 2020 models, but it was such a minor refresh that almost everything I say about these can be applied to the previous 2018 generation. iPad Pro has a dramatically different design compared to the other iPads, as it features the bezel-less screen without the home button. It has the Face ID scanner for the authentication, same as the iPhone X and newer do, but this scanner works both in portrait and landscape mode. It also got rid of the rounded design of the previous iPads in favor of this iPhone 5-esque boxy square design. It is sold in 2 versions, each with different screen sizes, the 11-inch and 12.9-inch, so you can get this iPad in almost the same screen size as the MacBooks have, and the screen on this Pro also supports 120Hz refresh rate, so everything is absolutely smooth on the screens. The new 2020 iPad Pros also feature the dual camera setup and the LiDAR sensor for better AR experience, which is one of the main differences between these iPad Pros and 2018 ones. The 2020 Pros also have great stereo speakers, with 4 speakers in total, 2 on each side of the iPad. They are powered by an A12Z Bionic chip, which is just a minor upgrade from the A12X, but that one was already so overpowered that the A12Z is more than powerful even today, and it makes the iPad Pro one of the fastest portable devices on the market. The 2020 models also feature 6GB of RAM, so you can multitask all you want on these. And of course the Pros support the 2nd generation Apple Pencil with all these new tweaks and features, and you can buy a smart keyboard for these iPads. But Apple recently released the new Magic Keyboard case for these and the 2018 models, which also has a trackpad, but be prepared to pay a ton lot of money for this keyboard. The iPad Pros are for those of you who want to have the latest and greatest from Apple. They have all the newest features, the nicest screen, the best design and the most powerful hardware. And it is not a secret that Apple is trying to push this iPad as a true computer replacement. And it's true that these iPad Pros are the closest you can get to a full computer. If you can or cannot actually use the iPad Pro as a main computer, I leave that up to you, because every person has different needs and different expectations from their computers. But you can take a look at my video that I did a couple of weeks back, in which I'm trying to find out if you can use the iPad Pro as a main computer. I'll leave a link in the description of this video, so you can check it out later. But with every generation of the iPad Pros, the gap between this device and the MacBook, for example, is thinner and thinner, and I believe that for some people the iPad can actually be better than traditional laptop, because it's just much more versatile thanks to its touchscreen, great set of cameras for AR, and most importantly the Apple Pencil support, which is something you just don't get on a MacBook. So if you're thinking about replacing your PC with the iPad, then you cannot buy anything better than the iPad Pro. I have the 11-inch 2018 model with a smart keyboard, and I honestly can't imagine a world in which my MacBook Pro just isn't. So guys, that's it for today's video. I hope it was somehow helpful for those of you who are considering buying an iPad, but are a little bit confused from all the different models that Apple is selling nowadays. Which iPad is the best one for your particular needs? Let me know in the comment section, and if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, it helps me a lot. Also consider subscribing for more videos like this. So until the next time, have a great day, stay safe, stay healthy, stay home if possible, and see you in the next video. Bye.